Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, September 15th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet, and it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also download from that page a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them, I say even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you and help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we would appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you through an email, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time it occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. And we appreciate whenever anybody does that because this makes it so much easier for us to live into our intention with this work. If you're able to join us live, most of the weekdays we're here from 11 a.m. to noon Central Time. And you can find us on Zoom. Go to zoom.us and open a browser window and then join the meeting with the meeting ID number is 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And you can use that in a browser window, or you can call one of the many numbers that Zoom makes available and enter that ID, and then once you're on the call, you can mute and unmute yourself with *6. And the more the merrier. We'd love to hear your comments and questions. Once you're on the Zoom, you can either type in the chat room or speak up or just listen in. So, it's a Monday, and we've had a lovely weekend here in the Chicago area. No terrible storms or plenty of lovely sunshine and relative warmth. And one of the things I did on Saturday was go to the bookstop, Anderson Bookshop in Naperville, to see Liz Gilbert talk about her book, Eat, Pray, Love's sequel, or one of the many. She had several books since Eat, Pray, Love, Big Magic and Eat, Pray, Love, and some others that she's written. This one is called All the Way to the River: Love, Loss, and Liberation. And one of the striking things about driving an hour and a half to see somebody talk about their book, one of the striking things for me was that as a man, as a male person in that room, I was outnumbered about 100 to 1. And that might be generous for the men. So now in someone like me, what that that gets interpreted by me as something that's good fodder for generating sadness or frustration, because I happen to know that there are many, many men who've been through the kinds of abuse that the women have been through, that would lead people, male or female, to get into a love addiction habit. And I know a lot of men would benefit from learning what's been learned by very bright people, male and female, who've struggled with these issues for decades and are breaking out of the traditional medical model that is not trauma informed, and they're starting to look at things with an eye to, okay, so what have the formative years of my life yielded, and what baggage do I have to sort out, and how can I understand my situation from a better perspective that gives me more options for making my life more manageable, is one of the ways to talk about it. So probably at least 100 women for every one man that was at this talk. And then as I'm reading to her, listening to her book, this part grabbed me. And I understand that while it's not as pronounced, there is a decided difference, and a larger percentage of people who attend the support groups and the internet show are female more than male. And so I thought I would read one chapter, a brief chapter from Liz's book, titled A Brief History of Womanly Overgiving. And there's, I'm hoping that soon there will be some good hashtags for this. I haven't checked it out, but someone who could pull together some of the thoughts that have been written and published recently in the past 5 or 10 years about this dynamic, or pulling together in the past 5 or 10 years what's been studied and known for hundreds of years. But the title of the chapter is A Brief History of Womanly Overgiving. And Liz writes, before we can continue with our story, I wish to point out that I'm not the only person in the world who's ever done this. Meaning, I'm not the only person who ever had the big idea of trying to win love, attention, validation, and acceptance by showering lava upon someone else. And lava probably stands for love, affection, validation, and something else, acceptance maybe. And then she writes, and I'm certainly not the first person who ever communicated to somebody, either openly or silently, quote, I can only feel safe and important if you love me and appreciate me. In the parlance of attachment theory, this is called, quote, externalizing your sense of security, close quotes. And it never ends well. Nonetheless, it's incredibly common, especially among women, who are more likely than men to try to earn their value through lavish acts of overgiving to others. This is because women have always been taught that we can get love only by giving love, even if we must sacrifice our own security, health, and well-being in the process. And when I use the word sacrifice, I don't use it lightly. Multiple studies have shown, for instance, that heterosexual women who are married and have children do not live as long as women who are single and childless. Why? Probably because women give themselves to death in every way that success can be measured in society. And here in parentheses, she has longevity, prosperity, contentment, physical and mental health, close parentheses. In all those ways it can be measured, wives and mothers pay and pay dearly. They also earn less money than their single counterparts while doing more unpaid work than their partners do in terms of homework, childcare, elder care, volunteer work in the community, emotional support of neighbors, friends, and relatives, etc. Married women and mothers also get less sleep and exercise than single women, and they weigh more. They are more likely to be depressed or anxious, less likely to be sexually satisfied, more likely to abuse substances, and more likely to die from stress-related diseases, accidents, suicide, or homicide. That's pretty telling for a woman who is married with children compared to a single woman who doesn't have children. On the other hand, she writes, it's been statistically proven that in every way success can be measured in society. Once more, these are listed as longevity, prosperity, contentment, physical and mental health, etc. In all those ways, married men strongly outperform single men. Let that sink in. Married women are getting used up and thrown away, and married men are doing the using. And they're gaining the benefit of the fact that their partner does so much more than they do, exerting these energies on these relationships and these issues to boost quality of life. And she asks, so why is this so? Because female partners are literally pouring life into them at a steep cost to the female partner's own existence. Sociologists call this, quote, the marriage benefit imbalance, close quotes. And what they mean is that the institution of marriage benefits men far more than it benefits women. Then she writes, I would like to register a formal complaint as a woman stating that this arrangement quite simply sucks. I would also like to state that the stubborn endurance of this imbalance causes me to feel rather cross whenever I watch yet another dumb romantic movie about a woman who is desperately trying to get some dude to marry her, even as the man tries to avoid being, quote, trapped in her web. If these stories told the truth from a sociological standpoint, the woman would be running for her literal life to get away from the institution of marriage, while the man would be begging her to take care of him forever so he can live a long and happier life. But it's not only within the realm of marriage that motherhood that we see this pattern of women overgiving to men. Girls who attend co-ed schools do not perform as well academically or emotionally as girls who attend single-sex schools. Again, this sink in. Girls who attend co-ed schools do not perform as well academically or emotionally as girls who attend single-sex schools, whereas boys perform better in schools where girls are present. Why? Because girls pay attention to the boys, helping them to socialize. They motivate them. They assist them with their work. Again, they do all of this to their own detriment. And corporations with women on their boards outperform corporations without female leadership by a staggering 25%. Even though corporate life is brutal and punishing for women, the presence of women boosts their performance by a staggering 25%. Even within the realm of addiction and recovery, this pattern holds. Female addicts are more likely to recover if they're placed in a single-sex rehabilitation facility, whereas male addicts are likelier to stay clean and sober if women are around to help inspire them, once more at the expense of the women. Of course, not every relationship, personal or professional, is defined by a woman sacrificing more of herself than a man. It's also not the case that every relationship consists of a man and a woman. Our concepts and understandings of gender are transforming before our eyes, and I pray that all this transformation of culture and consciousness will eventually bring a better deal for all those who identify as women. However, the reality of life is that very few relationships are perfectly or even reasonably balanced. So it's worth questioning in every partnership, who's playing the traditional role of the woman here? Meaning, who's pouring more care and nourishment into this relationship or project or institution, and who is the beneficiary of all that care and nourishment? And what is the cost to the overgiver? Now listen, she writes, I could sit here all day ranting about the patriarchy, but that isn't what this book is about. This is a book about my trying to take full accountability of my own life. It is essential to my emotional sobriety that I take personal responsibility for my part in any story that involves dysfunction. Thus, I believe there is one better question that we must address here. One other important question that we must address here, namely, quote, what is the overgiver getting out of this obviously imbalanced arrangement? Or at least what do they think they're getting out of it? Because nobody overgives for no reason, even if those reasons are deeply hidden or disguised as acts of pure altruism. So what's the payoff exactly? In my case, the payoff has always been love, or at least the desperate hope of love. And how far am I willing to go? How much will I extend myself, exhaust myself, burn myself out, or manipulate, seduce, soothe, manage, and control others in order to get my own hidden needs and hungers met? Are you kidding me? To earn love, I'll give up everything that I have. I will overgive myself right to the edge of annihilation. But not always. But not always. And I wish I had a collection of several of the other pieces that I've written in the, not written, but read in the last, I'd say 5 years, where people are paying attention to this and summarizing it in ways that are just striking. the overbalance, the overgiving from women over men, the standard thing that where I see it so often, which is so painfully obvious, is when a family goes through a divorce and the mother keeps the custody of the children. It is far more common that she's doing many times the work, the effort, and the finances and the emotional support to keep the family going than the father or the husband does. So that's been summarized beautifully in a number of places, and I've read them recently, but this one just jumped out at me from Liz Gilbert's book, and I wanted to share it today as a follow-up to just observing that there were probably 100 women there for every man that attended this presentation by Liz on Saturday.
Dr. Tim?
Yes.
What do you think she meant when she said, but not everything?
You mean the last line?
Yeah.
She didn't say not everything. She said not always. She's referencing how every once in a while she pulled herself back from the brink. And she didn't actually die with Rhea, which was a distinct possibility at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So when she pulled back from that and actually got into the 12-step rooms for love and sex addiction and actually started working a program, she feels like she's finally putting some healthier limits around that obsessive compulsive give yourself away for love pattern that she had been living most of her life.
That is like a dynamite chapter.
It's the kind of thing that a lot of people generate a lot of anger about, and I encourage them to just release the anger, but pay attention to what they found and to do whatever they can to raise the consciousness of their own consciousness and the people around them to the fact that that's happening. And it's not productive. It's not useful. It's not conducive to healthy relationship. It's not conducive to a healthy bloodline in your family. And it doesn't have to stay that way.
I was thinking about my setup with Tim Bingham, which looks very traditional. He was a lawyer, and a lawyer is paid very well, enough to live on for a family so that the wife does not have to work. But if it were reversed, and if I were the breadwinner, I wouldn't earn anything to support anybody, being a composer, a pianist, artists, which are in some ways considered more of the feminine vocations, although it doesn't really pan out because there are some very famous, well-paid male artists. But I often thought, well, I'm safe because Tim Bingham is taking care of things, and so I can earn my keep here by cooking, laundry, ferrying kids around, and in between I can do my own work. And I always felt as if I had to make sure I earned my keep. This sounds brutal, I know, but I've thought about that.
It's as normal as breathing in this culture. Yep.
Oh, God. So, and also, like, just to give an example, I've been very tired lately, and I had some blood work done, and I am now officially diabetic, although safe, way down almost into pre-diabetes. But my doctor was saying, well, what have you been feeling like? And I said, well, I have been, I'll have a ton of energy first thing in the morning. I'll go for my walk. I'm clear-headed, but it dies very fast, and I have to lie down or sit down or just go be quiet. And so I've cut out some activities, and this doctor said, well, it may be this. And so we're working on changing diet at first and maybe wearing a monitor and all that sort of thing. But I'm digressing. Yesterday, I got home and there were a lot of things to be done, the usual household stuff, a lot of extra cooking. And I had no energy. I was going on dead battery. And everybody knows that feeling. You're just pushing through to get the stuff done. And I was thinking to myself how Tim doesn't need to do this. Now that he's retired, he can, he comes down and says, you want to eat? Meaning, where's the food? And stuff like that. So, so just to elaborate on what Elizabeth is talking about, but this is one dynamite chapter. And I've been listening to short extracts from the talk she and Oprah did days ago. Little chunks are being introduced, those little shorts that you can get on YouTube. And she's telling in one point, what is the cause of addiction? And she says, it's boredom and something else. And I'm afraid I can't. People become addicted because they're bored or something. But ultimately, the bored and the something really are indicators of anxiety. And I thought, hey, I've been boasting like mad about using the tools, and I've had so much less anxiety, and what I have is circumstantial and dealt with easily. And I'm thinking maybe I've been fooling myself all this time because I'm a love addict, thinking, okay, so there's got to be something else to that love addiction thing. I'm not sure she's totally right on that. And I know I'm veering off, but I wanted to ask your thought on
Okay,
that idea.
you're not sure she's totally right in what aspect?
Saying that addiction is caused by boredom or fill in the blank, but ultimately anxiety.
Well, but if you look at it in terms of pain or discomfort, it's the same. What's causing your pain? My anxiety. What's causing your pain? My fear of not being loved. What's causing your pain? My rage about my past traumas, right? What's
mm,
causing it's whether it's anxiety or fear, it's discomfort.
yeah.
And we use these really rigid constraining patterns to either numb us out from or distract from or try and avoid the discomforts in our lives.
Yeah. That's good. That, okay, I got it. Right. So that's amazing that you went to see her and heard her. Was it different from looking at a video to be
Oh
there in
yeah,
person?
to be in that energy, and of course in a room like this, you know, this has been highly selected, right? I mean, this audience has been screened and rescreened in a number of different ways, just automatically, right? So, like, nobody showed up for this accidentally. Nobody was just walking down the street and saw this. Oh, let's go in here and see what they're doing. So everybody knows about the book, paid the money, planned in advance, planned their trip so they could be there. You know,
So
people
how
came.
far in advance did you plan it? You had to go through the grid there.
Well, I had somebody offer me a ticket a couple weeks ago, and all I
Oh,
had to
I
do
see.
was you know
How cool is that?
say yes, and then get myself there.
Yeah, hey, great.
But the point is, there's all kinds of filters and screening that happen
Mm,
before anybody ends up in that auditorium,
mm.
right? So it's not like a random sampling of people, right? You get the idea of that? That only
Yep.
people that would read this kind of book that have
Mm-hmm.
probably have trauma in their lives that have been following Liz. So maybe there are people there that are mostly there because of their literary interest and I think Elizabeth Gilbert is a wonderful writer.
Yeah,
And I had
totally.
And there are some people I know, like Guy Finley. I really like his work, but I don't think he's as good a writer by any stretch, right?
No, and yeah,
And
right.
and and yet he's got some books that have gone international bestsellers, right? And so some people might have been there from the literary perspective, but I think the vast majority of people in that room are there because they've had traumatic childhoods and or they've had addiction issues and or they've had the love addiction issue. And so there's a there's a if you have any kind of energy sensitivity at all, there's a there's something in the air,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, on Oprah's thing, I was thinking the same thing. What a great audience that was. All very good questions. Uh,
Well, for the Oprah thing, you better believe they were all screened.
oh, I'm sure that's true. Terrific, though.
I had the experience to have a patient who went to the Oprah show once,
Wow.
and she told the story of how extensive the contact was with the directors and producers before even getting there. And they screened and made sure all the questions, and they gave you all the rules, and they told you where you'd be sitting. It was just amazing,
Uh,
the pre-work that went into that.
right.
And that was for the Oprah show when it was still on TV.
Donald is having trouble with static on the call. I don't have any on mine.
Yeah, I
Wonder.
don't have any on mine either. So if you're on a phone, you might just want to hang up and dial back in because it might be a bad cell service you're on. But
Dr. Tim, I put a link to a Jung talk about, he calls it the 6 types of addiction. And I saw myself in all 6 types, but basically you end up recognizing yourself in one or two of the types. But it's short and it's really interesting. So I thought people might like to listen to that.
great, I'm copying and pasting it into an email to myself so I can check it out later.
One of my clients is a really intensely addicted porn sex addict. And I sent him this and he just loved it and identified right away which category he was in. But I'm hardly qualified to be a sex and love addict when I'm a sex and love addict myself, or maybe I'm very qualified on the other hand. Yeah.
Well, think about it. Like how many people do you think are going to benefit from Liz Gilbert's book, All the Way to the River? I mean, it's going to be hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands.
It could be revolutionary.
Well, but it's just, when you have your own experience
Mm,
and you're conscious and working on improving yourself or your life or the life of the people around you, then it's worth sharing.
mm-hmm.
Whatever
Right.
successes or failures you have.
Mm. In the case of addiction, I think most addicts who are aware of it and wanting to get sober do a lot of what Elizabeth Gilbert probably did in the way of putting God first. And she even said there's an order of focus. Your best focus, your first focus should be God, then yourself, then the other person, not necessarily the object of your addiction, but just other people. And where am I going with this? I had a thought. It went.
It'll come back to you.
Well, it hasn't come back yet, Jim.
Okay.
So,
So when you say, God first, I
oh, I
know,
got it.
go ahead.
That we try very hard to put God first. I've been trying very hard to put God first. I have my little protocols. If my mind goes in one direction, I become aware that it's doing that, and I pull it back to the present, basically, into the present, which is a great thing to do. Then what should show up in my feed? Sometimes I think the whole universe is very self-centered, but I think the whole universe is inviting me to read this or that, or look at this or that. Things pop up, but it was a short talk by Alan Watts. And he said, don't work hard at it. Relax. You always say that too. Soften and breathe. Allow.
Where did I get that idea?
Anyway, just to say, it's a contradiction, but in a way you know about it, you know what you should do, and then you don't try hard to do it.
You know what you should do, and then you don't try hard to do it? You lost me there. What do you mean, then you don't try hard to do it?
I know I should refocus and put God first, but he's saying, stop working so hard at correcting what's happening. Just be aware of it, relax, and trust God that you're not going to get over this addiction until you are. And it's not up to you. I don't even know if that's true, but that's what he said. It's not up to you.
And who are you quoting now?
Alan Watts.
Okay.
Sorry, I try to get organized here.
Well, bless his heart, Alan Watts has had some wonderful ideas and wonderful books that I have, I shouldn't say books, videos and lectures that I've listened to and enjoyed. But I don't think everything that came out of his mouth was always 100% perfect. So if you have a thought about it and your brain goes sideways, be careful about how much time you spend trying to sort it out as though it's the gospel truth.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And or thinking that there's something wrong with you because you don't get it.
Okay, thanks.
Right? That's a big trap in the spiritual work world.
Mm-hmm.
That we have. Yep. We have, as I've talked about so often, we have been conditioned at great effort and cost to put people on a pedestal and deify people and things, and it's unproductive every time it happens.
Mm. One thing I've been noticing, and I hope you'll notice if somebody puts a hand up. I've been working on old journals and putting them together into a memoir that may or may not be useful at all, except that for me, it's like processing my entire life. And it is full of triggers. I could even have a subtitle like Chronicles of a Sex and Love Addict, or just Love Addict. I could, I have a working title, and that could be a subtitle, because so much of what I'm doing in there is recounting these incredible relationships with people all my life, one after another, who I just adored and wanted to please and wanted to be with and wanted to impress and wanted them to like me. And then for usually fairly painful reasons, I cure myself, step away, correct everything, vow never to do that again, and then the next customer comes along. Well, you think it's funny.
Well, it's just the way you said it. I vow never to do it again, only to turn right around and do it again.
Right. That's it. So I'm wondering if I should be working on these journals, because I get a tremendous endorphin rush whenever I'm doing them. And I think, oh boy, is this healthy or what? Oh, I don't know. I'm not expecting you to answer that. That's just a report.
I would assume it would be a good thing to keep doing them. I mean, at this point in time, because, the bottom line is you're just stirring stuff up. And if it's in there, it's okay for it to get stirred up.
I suppose, yeah.
Because if it's in there, it's already having its impact. on your life, on your perception, on your relationships.
Mm.
The problem is if it's in there and you don't know about it, it's having that impact without any input from you and
Oh,
without
I
any
know about
ability
it.
on
Yeah.
your part to mediate it before it
Hmm.
produces actual consequences in your life that you probably won't like.
You mean why? What do you mean by that? What's
Whenever I have anything in my unconscious that gets activated, right? I'm not aware of it. That's by definition, right? It gets activated. So now it's active and it's actually changing my perception, and it's the the foundation from which I decide to take whatever action in a
mm,
relationship, and I'm not aware of what's causing me to do it. I
mm,
think I'm doing it for the reasons my conscious logical mind is creating as a rationalization for it. But the
mm-hmm.
real thing driving it is this unconscious thing that got activated.
Yeah.
And so it's always a good thing to get that stuff stirred up so people can make a determination about, do they want to keep doing it? Do they want to leave those powerful unconscious motivations um, to run, whenever they get triggered or resonated into activity?
Mm.
Or do they want to do the work to unload some of that stuff so there's less of that in my store, so to speak?
That is a very interesting thing that you just said. Interesting to me anyway. Do the work that it takes. I don't, I have wake up sheets, I have mind shifters, but I'm not sure but what I need a different tool.
Why?
And I don't know if because I use them, but it's like a blackhead that keeps filling up again. That's pretty gross of an image, but um
Well, the thing is, when you see the actual dynamic all the
yeah.
way through to its clear ending, beginning, ending, it loses its power over you. You don't need other tools. Now, if you're stuck in a place where you're let's just call it the fear-based mind
Hmm.
is terrified and won't let you slow down and use tools like the reality management worksheet or the EFT tapping or the breath work, then you might be, you know, being driven by the effects of past trauma downloads, right? And so then it might work out better for you if you did specific focused trauma work, specific techniques that are not just talk therapy. But then once that happens and the effects of the trauma are, no longer so strong in you and they've been dismantled to a large part or large degree, then when you pick up whatever tools that resonate with you, whether it's the worksheets or the tapping or somebody else's worksheets, etc., you'll get better benefits.
I'm scanning in my mind what tools are available, and maybe I haven't figured out the right tool. Anyway,
Well, to do what?
to
You
be
haven't
able to
figured out the
process,
right tool to do what?
you said something. You said once you realize the whole mechanism, or you can follow it all to the end, the problem isn't there, or you healed that. Not that it might happen. You said it a certain way, and I can't remember how you said it, but it was like, oh, I can't get to that last step. I've not gotten to that last step, the step where I'm okay, unless a certain amount, by grace and whatever, it just runs its course and I'm released from it. Or it might be a just sudden release and shift that I didn't plan for, and I'm all of a sudden free again. It's like my one of my grandsons broke up with a girl that he absolutely adored. And then he said, just one day, it was gone. The whole grief, it was gone. I always thought we shouldn't be together. We weren't suited. And then I felt it. I felt my freedom. I was free to enjoy the day, to be in the moment, to enjoy other people, etc. I've never been able to find my way there using any kind of tool. I can prep the ground, and maybe the prepping is the work, and then it'll happen, and I'm free. And it may be 3 years that I'm free.
Well, the point is, most of us have these things. Whenever we have anything where it's a traumatic memory or a negative belief about self or a maladaptive pattern that we've created or downloaded from our family of origin, watching in the relationships in the family, when we've got that in our system, most of us have layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start doing worksheets, we're peeling off the top layers.
Yeah.
And sometimes we peel off a layer and feels like, oh my gosh, my whole life is different now. And it feels different for a while. But
Yeah.
we live along until, guess what? Here comes another layer of the same
Oh,
problem. And if we're not
okay.
tracking the work we're doing, if we're not, monitoring at some level the SUD's subjective units of disturbance, right? Rate this from 0 to 10. 0 is no upset, 10 is the most it can be. If we're not doing that kind of thing, then the egoic mind quickly jumps in and says, oh, forget it. You've already done worksheets on this and it didn't work. You need a different tool or you need a different
Oh,
distraction
okay.
or right?
Yeah.
Instead
Uh-huh.
of just, oh, well, there's another layer of that issue. This is a familiar issue.
Yeah.
I've dealt with it before in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's a new twist on an old issue that,
Mm-hmm.
I never would have guessed that it would work out that way, but here it is, working out that
Oh.
way.
Mm.
And if I'm willing to look at it, I'll see my old issue as, an old friend walking down the street. Oh, hey, there you are. There you are, low self-esteem. There you are, claustrophobia. Right?
Yeah.
There you are, panic attack.
Mm.
I've been with you before. I've survived every one of those we've had. What's this ride going to take us on? Where's
That's
this
such a
going to
great
take us?
thing to remember that I've been through this. I got through it. This is old stuff.
Yep.
That's so good. Mm. Well, I keep having questions, and I'm doing my usual thing of feeling it as if I'm hogging airtime.
Okay, well, all the other people who put their hands up, I just deleted them. I pushed them away. So I will let you know if anybody else raises a hand. And as we've said before, we have a number of people who stick around and they are very grateful for everybody who talks up or speaks up. So have you got another question or not?
Yeah, I understand why it's good not to keep telling your story, but that's what it is. It's the story. And so, as we were talking, something came powerfully to my mind, but it's my story. And I feel as if I just, oh, that happened back then, and maybe this is the origin of that and all this, I'm not sure I trust myself to abstain from using the story unless it's really useful. And I don't need to do it on the radio show, even. I can just go do a wake up sheet on this thing that just popped up. But it's a memory, it's part of the story. So I've had clients who've keep telling me the same story, and I've tried to ease them off of it, saying, I remember what you said. I'm there, I get it. You don't need to tell me again. Let's look at things from another angle. And usually they can find their way into getting more current or finding creative ways to deal with present. You always talk about practical. I love that. Practical ways to get along now. But sometimes the stories come back like gangbusters.
Yes. And what story came up that you were just spouting about?
Well, Sally just said, addiction to story. It's a thing. I've been there. Yeah, I'm worried about it being a thing too. Addiction to the story.
Well, and that's why, for the most part, we limit people when they want to tell a story and say, let's put it on a worksheet, or let's use a breath session, or let's do some EFT tapping around the emotions that come up when you tell that story. So we're not
I see now.
chasing stories,
Yeah, I see. That's good.
but we're willing to hear the relevant parts of them.
Well, this particular story popped to my mind, and I have no feeling about it, but I remember what I felt then. I was 9 years old, and I was shaking so hard in my bed that the bed was rattling. And my sister, who was 16, was trying to get me to calm down. And the reason was my mother had taken an overdose, and she was being hauled off to the hospital with what looked like a suicide attempt. That was horrible. But I don't feel it now. But I remember feeling it then. And since it popped to my mind, I thought, maybe there's something about this addiction. Maybe it's connected.
Absolutely. Just trust the resonance,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, like Michael Ryce has talked about tuning forks and the law of resonance, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's so useful that I've had tuning forks in my office to demonstrate to
Mm-hmm.
people
That's great.
for a lot of years now. I mean,
Mm.
I could reach over here in another part of my office and pull up these two tuning forks sitting on wooden boxes, and it's a very powerful demonstration for people about the law of resonance and energy. And so trust the resonance.
Trust, you mean that it popped into my head? Because I
Yeah,
don't.
it came into your head, so there's something there. So,
Okay. Yeah.
oh, I thought I got over. Oh, you know what? I think of that and it doesn't cause me any emotions whatsoever. But when I was doing this piece of work, that thought came up again. I wonder what that's about. Well, if I leave
Mm.
it at, I wonder what it's about, and move on to something else, I'll never find out what it's about. But
Yeah.
if I go and ask it, literally ask the memory, ask the physical sensation, ask your older self, because if it came to mind, it's a part of a living vibrational response to something going on in the world and in your life in that moment.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So trust it and do work around it. Don't let
Mm-hmm.
it flip away.
Okay.
Understand that at a certain level, everything's happening because it's getting resonated by something else.
Mm.
Everything's happening in connection to everything else. And if you start to just trust that, and then instead of getting in here with the intellectual mind trying to sort it out, just use the tools, you'll have an entirely different experience, guaranteed.
Yeah, I can already feel it. Just having you say those things is good.
One of the things that is not so often, I never got much of this in my psychology training, my doctorate and my postdoctorate trainings.
Mm.
But and the thing that I didn't get is this idea that, hey, you know what? You're totally perfect and safe and unbreakable and all by
Mm.
yourself, always, forever. Your true nature is safe. It's going to work out. I never got any of that training.
Yeah.
I got training into, well, now check out who's fragile and check out who's really strong and check out who's
Mm.
got this label and do this interview technique so you can accurately diagnose this person in 5 minutes and that person in 12 because they're a harder case, and all that stuff that implies seriousness and danger and solid this and that, whereas most of this stuff is not that big a deal, and it's only a big deal for the person whose mind is telling them it's such a big deal, and all of it's going to work out.
That is so good, and that should be repeated a lot.
Yeah, but it doesn't get repeated.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't even get mentioned in the 9 3/4 years it took me to get my doctorate.
Where did you?
At a little private, a school for professional psychology that was created by the gentleman who had several psychiatric hospitals and who wanted to, craft a training program for people that would be. It was run by PhDs, but those PhDs were giving us a dramatically different training than they had gotten.
Was this under the auspices of a university or something? Or
No, this is a freestanding. It was a fully accredited school, but it's a freestanding school of professional psychology. So they gave out masters and they gave out doctorates and they gave out things that social workers could get in there. And so it was, but it was affiliated with this psychiatric hospital. So they had all kinds of resources. And that was the hospital I worked at for 2.5 years in the adolescent unit. And of course it's, on a decent traffic day way back when I first started in school, you could get from Des Plaines, where it is, you could get into downtown Chicago in a half an hour to 40 minutes. So it had all the resources of all of the big schools right down the street, basically.
Thank you for answering a question I didn't mean to ask. You sort of jumped in before I had finished the words, but I love knowing that. Thank you. I was just going to ask where the idea that we are already okay and whole, and we've been through that and we survived. So we don't need to go to panic. I wondered where in your education or where did you learn that?
Oh, only through my spiritual readings and trainings. I never learned that through to this day, I have, within the past couple of years, I've had situations where I was asked to see somebody who'd been seeing somebody else for years already in therapy. And a big part of the model that the other person was using, the other professional was using to deal with that person was that they are fragile. And my work doesn't allow me to go there.
Yeah.
And so, it's stunning that that's still happening, that there are still people out there 20 or 30 years younger than me who've been through the system, and they're still being trained to teach people as though they're fragile. So, well, you've taken us down to the end of the hour as usual. Thank you so much for your comments and questions. And thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a Monday, so there's no group tonight, but we'll be on the call again tomorrow morning and then group tomorrow evening. So I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything